Hello again, I'm Blunty, and I've just come back from an adventure in Brisbane, Queensland, where there was much drinking, much dancing, and where this man educated my dumbass on how rum can be much more than the splash it in Coke and let it kick the back of your throat in rot gut that I've spent most of my adult life believing it was. This is a launch event for Havana Club Rum, a proper Cuban rum, which means you Americans out there can't get it. Sucks to be you. And the folks who are bringing it to Aussie bars invited me up to check it out. I'm here for a tasting session to discover the entire range of Havana Club rum, and I'm about to discover that I've been very, very wrong about rum for far too long. It's time to drink my ignorance away.
Hi, my name is Ben Davidson. I'm the brand ambassador for Havana Club here in Australia. Today, the Havana Club brand is owned by the Cuban government and it's distributed throughout the world by Pernod Ricard. And we're proud to have that in Australia here as the authentic Cuban rum. Their tradition is to create two different qualities of rum. A real rich kind of full-flavoured rum they call the aguardientes, which is also kind of loosely translates to firewater. It's very character-driven, full-flavoured rum. And they also then create a very a light, extra fine distillate. And it's a matter of blending these two different qualities of rum together to get the overall different flavours throughout the range. And of course, key to the Havana Club flavour profile is the prolonged barrel aging. They use American white oak barrels. Of course, they don't get them directly from the Americans.
It's a bit ironic, really, considering the trade embargoes.
It is. So because they're well connected with the French and certainly throughout the Pernod Ricard network, they're able to get a steady supply of ex-bourbon barrels. Of course, Wild Turkey was a big supplier, but they also use bourbon barrels from across Kentucky.
Is it important they use used barrels?
It is. They really like to use the used barrels because, you know, a lot of that woodiness and harshness is taken out by the previous spirit, of course, the bourbon that was in those barrels. And it really allows for more of a delicate bringing on of the woodiness and the characters from the wood, but also allowing for oxidation, which, as we know, is key for the development and maturation of spirits. As the air seeps into the barrel, the interaction with the nitrogen and the oxygen in the air is really key to the evolution and the development of flavours and characters.
All right, let's get on with the tasting. So,
Okay.
What have I got in front of me here? Before me stands a selection of Havana Club rum.
So we've got all 5 rums in the range. We're going to start off with the Añejo Blanco, aged white rum. It's about a 2-year-old blend of rums. Some of the rums in the blend are about 3 or 4 years, but the youngest rums are 2 years. So pick it up and give it a bit of a swirl.
Also, we're doing the wine wanker.
The wine wanker thing. But what it does, I guess, it just kind of forces some of the lovely aromas into the air above the glass. So of course then we'll give it a bit of a nosing, and you'll notice that it's quite volatile. There's, you know, some alcohol, ethanol really coming off it, but also there's some really nice kind of subtle fruit characters. You can really smell that sugar cane. The tasting notes also mention some touches of vanilla, cherry pit, and cacao. You know, and there's a mixture of really lovely, fresh, vibrant flavours, I find. So let's have a sip.
Are we supposed to swirl this in our mouth like wine, or just let it sit on the tongue?
I'd allow it just pass over the tongue.
That is a lot smoother than I'm used to rum being.
Yeah. Well, it's got that really, you know, nice little natural sweet character coming across the mid palate.
It's the sinus.
Yeah. There's a bit of length there, and that's going to come from the barrel aging. And as we go through the rums, you'll notice that those flavours really stick longer in the back palate after you swallow. But you know, all in all, a really good mixing rum, because the flavour of the rum really comes through, especially in a mojito or a daiquiri or anything you're going to mix it with. That rum character is really going to persist. Next we have the Añejo Especial. Aged special rum, as it translates in English. So a blend of some young rums, probably around the 3 to 4 year old, but some of the rums in the blend are more about in that 5 to 6 year old age. So, you know, initially you're going to smell some much more subdued characters, a little bit of development of that brown spice.
It smells a lot more subtle. It doesn't sort of hit you with that sort of alcoholic punch.
That's right. So there's, you know, the developments of some, there's brown spice characters that they like to talk about, a little bit of caramel, toffee coming through, hints of vanilla, but still not amazingly complex. When we taste it, you'll notice that there's a little bit of heat still, and it's definitely a mixing rum.
Right.
A little bit of that kind of raisiny character, an intense kind of dried fruit, maybe dates or that raisin sultana note.
It's a bit warmer.
Yeah. So lovely in like a Cuba Libre or a daiquiri or any kind of contemporary. The Cuban ginger is one we do with the Especial, which is dry ginger, fresh lime, and yeah, it's quite a nice development of the range.
It's not bad at all. Yeah.
Next we have the Añejo Reserva. Originally the reserve rum for the Maestro Raneros themselves. It was their private stash. Quite a unique one in the blend in that it's really light, it's quite delicate. Don Jose Navarro, the premier Maestro Ranero, was convinced to make a bigger blend of this reserve batch that they only kept for themselves. And it's a delicious, light, delicate sipping rum, a little bit naturally sweet as well, but it's beautiful. You can really kind of start to breathe it in a lot deeper, and doesn't really burn the nose as much as, say, the first two.
That is a lot different.
Yeah. And you can pick up that nice natural sweetness there, very smooth in the finish. Yeah.
It's definitely a much more rounded flavour.
Definitely a step up, and really the first in the range that you could sit and enjoy just with a few ice cubes, or even mix in a cocktail. It depends what you're feeling like.
But probably a cocktail that's not too complex, so you can still really appreciate that.
I mean, we've got it in the daiquiri mulata, which is a nice kind of twist on the original daiquiri, using some cacao, creme de cacao, and these richer kind of more brown spice characters, fresh lime juice. It's a gorgeous drink, so we're going to be trying some of those later tonight.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We've got to be hitting up on those.
Next we have the flagship of the whole house of Havana Club, and this Añejo 7 Años. Beautiful, rich style. It's really the epitome of the Cuban rum dark style. Minimum 7-year-old rum, so the youngest in the blend is 7, but some of the rums are much older, 15, 16, 17 years even. And again, it's a higher proportion of this full-flavoured, what they call the madre. This it's quite a romantic reference to it. It's the mother stock that gives birth to the future rums. They're very romantic and poetic in their use of language. It's fantastic. So,
it smells a lot more powerful or impressive. I think is what I'm looking for.
It's opulent. It's a little bit more commanding of the palate. But
commanding is a good word. Yeah.
It's a majestic rum.
Good Lord, that is smooth.
It is, but there's a lot going on there. Whereas the Reserva really kind of slid down and just left some really lovely kind of caramel and vanilla flavours. This has got some spice like tobacco. There's a little bit of pepper there on the back palate, but also some kind of tropical fruit. Dried pineapple is something that comes to mind occasionally, and as well as that raisiny character.
Pineapple-y kind of character. I'm not used to talking in these terms about drinks.
Okay.
I'm a guy just, he buys a drink, but, doing the tasting while we're talking about it, I can appreciate what's going on there. And I'm often mock coffee snobs and wine snobs for using those kinds of terminology, but I'm starting to understand it now. I might have some friends
to really try to find things that are there in a very subtle way, but I suppose really just trying to elicit an experience in the audience when I do these spirit tastings. I talk about things that I smell, and it's really something that some people don't pick up. But look, I think it's worth mentioning because the rum blenders talk about these kind of fruit characters and spice characters, and then after a bit of time you can really start to pick them up.
I must admit, I'm not generally a big rum drinker, and when I have drank rum, it's rum and coke, and it's normally the good old Aussie Bundaberg rum, which is fine in a rum and coke. But I'm starting to realise there's a lot more. There's a lot more going on with the rum than I originally thought.
Well, rum is what we've been saying for a few years, is really a category on fire. It's really undergoing some really nice growth as more Caribbean rums, South American rums, rums from all over the world are coming into the market now. So it's not just...
We're going beyond that rum stereotype at this point, and a bottle of rot gut.
That's right, and I mean that was always a reference to kind of that real full-flavoured, hearty English-style rum, which Bundaberg is in that kind of category. Cuban rum fits in this more in the Spanish rum style, which is a little bit lighter, a little bit more delicate, perhaps using a different
a lot more complex.
Yeah, different distillation methods, which really give rise to the different kind of flavours throughout the rum world.
So let's give the king.
And finally, we also have the Cuban Barrel Proof. This is a barrel proof rum, bottled straight at barrel strength, at 45% alcohol. youngest rums in the blend are around 12 years, and some of the oldest are over 20 years of age. And at that age, the rum is incredibly smooth. It's incredibly intense as well. And it's a beautiful, rich style of rum, really kind of the pinnacle of the Havana Club style.
That hits you in the back of the head.
Yeah, 45% alcohol, so a little bit stronger, but the intensity of flavour, because as the barrel's sitting there and aging, of course the spirit's evaporating out through the staves, and the actual volume of the liquid is decreasing over the years. They lose about 2 to 3% per year. So, but what happens is that what's left behind is these flavours and aromas that are intensifying and becoming thicker and more and richer. So
it's like simmering a spaghetti sauce.
Exactly, reducing it. It's going to the flavour is definitely, and you can use that analogy for sure. Wow. So.
I have no words for that.
It takes your breath away. I mean, it is surprisingly smooth, even at that slightly higher strength. And I think that's the beauty of aging and prolonged barrel aging. As the alcohols change and evolve, a lot of the harsher, kind of sharper alcohols differentiate and evaporate away, leaving just richer, more complex flavours.
It's sitting there on my palate, and I know I just had a mouthful of rum, but that's like no mouthful of rum I've ever had in my life.
Oh wow. It's good to hear that. Yeah.
So that's the overproof one, or the strongest one. Would you consider that more a cocktail or a?
This is a rum you'd really want to enjoy straight and just sip it as you would maybe a cognac or a fine single malt. It's really of that caliber, so one that you can really enjoy and probably light up a nice Cuban cigar to really bring it to life.
What's your stance on ice cubes as far as rum goes?
I think the colder a spirit is served, the more closed it is, in a sense, because as we know, very cold spirits,
it doesn't evaporate
and doesn't give off some of those lovely aromas, and some of the flavours are a little bit colder. So, but then again, cold drinks are refreshing and they're enjoyable. A drink at room temperature or a spirit at room temperature is quite volatile, and you know, as we took that sip, I could really feel that warmth just flooding the mouth. So probably, having it, at around, 4, 5, 6 degrees is probably a nice temperature. So I'm a fan of adding a couple of ice cubes in just about any spirit I have. I'll add 1, 2, possibly 3 ice cubes, because that's going to allow some of that the water, the dilution, and bringing it down, not too cold, but just in that right temperature where we go, oh, that's nice. That chilled kind of sensation in the mouth is something really that works well.
Well, thanks very much for helping me broaden my rum horizons.
Okay.
I'm going to go join the others and experience a whole bunch of different cocktails with these guys now. So
sounds good, mate.
Thanks very much, mate. I had no idea rum could be that interesting.
Oh, good one. I'm glad I could share that with you.
I'm glad.
Thanks.
It was a bloody fantastic night. I tasted many cocktails I'd never tried before, all based on Havana Club rum, of course, and I can tell you with utter honesty, they were all bloody delicious. If you see this stuff in your local bar, I suggest you give it a try. You just might find, like I did, that rum, when done right, is a truly delectable experience. Thanks for watching. I'm Blunty, and I'll catch you next time.